He told me that we're doing this morning.
I did not force anybody to do this.
Wait.
And we have Yoshi.
Hello, it is officially day 0 of Anime Riverside. It has been a hot second since I last vended at a convention. If you follow the vlogs, you know that the last time I vended was back in February for Friend Fest. So it's been like 3 or so months. So again, it's been a while. We did start setting up about an hour or so ago. I feel like it's been pretty quick in terms of setting up because usually I take my sweet time. However, in this case, because I have a hammer and I just really wanted to finish, or at least mostly finish, so I can start this intro, it's been going pretty quickly. As you know, if you are following the artist alley scene, you know that it is very competitive to get in now and even harder to stand out. And one of the biggest ways to stand out is by joining a stamp rally. If you've ever heard of a stamp rally or are not too familiar with it, stamp rallies are the hot topic in artist alley, and I have heard a few people ask how to participate in one, what is it, and how to organize one. As someone who's been in about 20 plus stamp rallies in my entire artist alley career and pretty much organized and hosted about 90% of them, I thought it'd be great to share my insight with you this weekend while vending at Anime Riverside. But before I go into it, what is a stamp rally? Stamp rallies in the context of artist alley are a way for attendees to circulate amongst different vendors they otherwise may not have known of and help increase purchases. If you've watched the vlogs, which you can watch up here, I have been focusing on doing one stamp rally per event. However, this weekend I am in 2 stamp rallies, which I will explain why in a second. Usually I'm in 1 stamp rally because there has been a bit of an oversaturation of them in the convention scene. I remember for events like Anime Expo, there's usually hundreds of stamp rallies because a lot of people do participate in more than one, and because I tend to get a little bit stressed in terms of focusing on more than one rally, I would much rather put my energy into just one and do my best with that particular rally. In this case, the reason why I am doing 2 this time is because it's just for fun. Honestly, for this event, I don't feel the need to be in a rally. I know last year I actually wasn't participating in one and I did fine. In this case, I wasn't going to do one, but since I did have a couple of friends who are vending here as well, I just wanted to try out a duo rally. So it'll be my first time participating in a rally where there's only 2 people involved. So if you want to learn everything I know about stamp rallies after hosting and being in one for the past 3 years, keep on watching. And later in the video, I will share some recommended quantities to order for stamp cards and prizes depending on the convention. We are using a tiny table this time because we are sharing a table with Joined by Ivy, and we are given an 8-foot table. We have this tiny one. Is it the same height? Yeah, it's like a little bit smaller. Now I know it at least fits. As you can see, it is slightly not the same height as the Riverside table, but time to work on the table. Look who it is. Who is this?
I'm the new hire.
Oh yeah, new hire, a few tables away, actually, yeah. For a second, I thought I forgot my table runner. I did not forget it. For Anime Riverside, you are given an 8-foot table, and usually I would use up the entire space. However, because I am sharing a booth space with Drawn by Ivy, I did bring a 4-foot table, and we would each have 6 feet of space. So in my case, I used this opportunity to basically practice my table layout for Anime Expo. I tend to do that for most Anime Riverside since that's usually the closest convention event to AX for myself. And usually the way I would build my display is from the floor up, mostly because I'm not that tall. And before I would put it from the table and then build it from there. However, since it can get top heavy, if I don't put a weight on the first couple grids, it could fall over and I don't want that to happen. So I always build it from the floor up. Ideally, if I have another person with me, I would have them help me carry the finished display onto the table so we don't have to deal with that. I do have a step stool just in case I forget to add anything from the top. However, I would rather finish everything while it's on the floor. Usually in the case, if I had a shorter display, because mine is currently 5 grid cubes tall, so I would say like 5 feet tall from the floor, not including the table. That one is too tall for me to build from the table, but if it was shorter, I think back when I had a slightly shorter layout where it's about 4 grid cubes high, that one I don't mind building from the table. If you're familiar with how I typically vend in a convention. I don't usually share a table space, mostly because I have a lot of stuff. However, because I was able to snag a corner table, I figured, well, Ivy didn't get a table spot, so we could just share it. But other than that, if she wasn't able to, I honestly wouldn't mind taking up the entire corner as well, because I feel like I have a good amount of stuff to fill it up regardless. We have shared a booth space before, back at Anime Los Angeles in January. You can watch that vlog up here. I will note though, if you are sharing a table or even a corner space, it is a bit smaller than a typical exhibitor space. Even though we are in the vendor hall rather than an artist alley, both spaces are the same. We'll see how it goes. I will say another thing that I like about this convention center, this location, is that there is free parking. If you get to this convention early enough, you will be able to park in the residential area, but it tends to fill up by 9 a.m., about an hour until con starts, so highly recommend coming in early if you do not want to pay a lot of money for parking. Also, if you want my more in-depth review on Anime Riverside, as well as some small business tips that I don't typically share on social media or in my vlogs, feel free to support me on Patreon. I will have it linked down below, and your support is very much appreciated. For this weekend, these are the 2 stamp rallies that I am participating in. The first one is with my table neighbor, drawn by Ivy. We are hosting a matcha themed stamp rally. Basically, if you purchase at least $10 at each of our booths, you will get these 2 free stickers. And the second stamp rally that I am in is with Sticker Zoo Designs, and we are hosting a boba themed stamp rally where similar rules, you purchase $10 from each of our booths and you'll get these 2 free boba themed stickers. This is the first time I will be working on a duo stamp rally, because most of the stamp rallies that I've participated in have always been minimum 4 or 5 other artists, but I have seen a rise of some people just doing 2 people stamp rallies. I wanted to see what it's like, and I will let you know how it goes at the end of this weekend. I would predict that this one would do super well because, first off, especially with mine and Ivy's stamp rally, we are literally right next to each other. There's no reason for people to get lost, and you can pretty much complete that rally within 10 minutes. Assuming there's no line, probably even less time, and you'll instantly get those 2 stickers. I feel like for a lot of people, they tend to not participate in some rallies because 1, there's too many artists, or 2, the price point is way too high, which I understand, because if you want to participate in a rally that has 6 artists, let's say the minimum is $10 from each artist, that's already $60 that you need to spend in order to get a particular prize, versus a rally with 2 or 3 artists, you only have to spend $20 or $30 to get the prize. So I'm curious to see how that will go with less artists participating in this rally. Amazing. Now it takes 3 people to carry this up because it is very heavy. I think the reason why we usually need at least 3 people, typically we can do 2, but I realize because this part is really heavy, it can fall forward if it's just 2 people. Let's say Henry wasn't helping us. I would have myself or my helper kind of just hold this down, and then the other person can go get stuff from the back and then weigh this down, just so this doesn't fall forward, because it could if you're not careful. But we're good. The table layout in its skeletal glory. We do need to put the pins up. However, because I do build it from the bottom up and then we do carry it onto the table, I like to put everything and the finishing touches at the end. Sorry, I made you wait! It's so dinner time. We got sushi. Sushi. Sushi for dinner. We got boba. Is anyone surprised? No. Hello, it is day 1 of Anime Riverside. We just got here. It is 9:03 in the morning. Oh, look who it is. Hello. Wow. We're all vlogging. Shamima, yay! So this is like ALA all over again. Don't call it that.
That's what it says.
The pee-pee drink.
It said pee-pee on it. I got the pee-pee drink.
We're pretty much set up for the most part since most of it was done yesterday, but we do need to film a few things for Instagram Reels. I do have my post scheduled, so that's one less thing to think about. But if you want to learn a little bit more about stamp rallies, keep on watching and I will talk about everything there is to know about making a stamp rally or being a part of a stamp rally, or just hosting and organizing one. At a funeral?
They got her the case and the Labubu was like, here, you wanted this, right?
I'm hearing unhinged things.
Guys, look, the Labubu, it can dance. Like,
I love
Like
that.
body roll, you know?
Yeah.
It's so
Can
fun.
you do that? Yeah.
No, I
Try
can't
it.
do the same
Why
thing.
not? Do it again.
You gotta do the clap and you jump into the pose.
She's a cookie. And what is she?
Typically try to dress very well.
This
My
is out of
comfort zone.
character. Oh my god, it's so cute.
We've been hired by Henry.
This is the worst day of my life.
Yay!
This was all within consent. I did not force anybody to do this. This was of everyone's own free will.
He told me that we're doing this morning.
Send help, I'm being held captive by Sticker Zoo Designs.
So con started not too long ago. It is 10:22. This event is 10 to 7 on Saturday and 10 to 6 on Sunday. Since we were discussing stamp rallies in this video, so you want to participate in one, how do you find them? Some ways I would find rallies is through Discord groups. There is the Artist Alley Network Discord, which is one of the biggest ones, but they do accept artists on a rolling basis since they have grown so much. But there are a few smaller ones you might have to find or find through other artist friends who are in one. And through there you can ask around. Or you might even see people who are asking if anyone wants to join their particular stamp rally. But let's say you can't find one of your own, how do you organize one? First, I would recommend thinking of a theme. Some of them tend to be IP specific, like a One Piece theme, Genshin theme, Lads theme, and so on. Or it could even be a mix of themes like a Sanrio plus summer, Japanese kombini plus original characters, and so on. Once you've decided on a theme, you are going to find participants. At this point of my artist career, I am able to fill my rallies with artist friends, but if you are earlier in your artist rally journey, or if you don't know a lot of people in the scene, I would ask in these forums or ask on social media if anyone is interested in participating. More often than not, you are going to find people who want to join your stamp rally. One thing you're going to want to consider is the prize and price point to participate in your stamp rally. I would recommend starting with something simple at first if this is your first time hosting one or being a part of one. And it really depends on this answer. Is it pay to play, which is the most common, or is it free to participate? And if they have to pay, what is the minimum? Mine are usually minimum $10 per artist for smaller prizes, such as sticker sheets, but others do give stamps with any purchase or at least $1 tip, so attendees don't feel pressured to buy something they won't actually use just to get the prize. Also, if you didn't know already, I do stream on Twitch. I was on a short hiatus since I was packing Kickstarter pledges and con prepping, but after next weekend 626 Night Market OC, I am going to stream more regularly. So if you ever want to co-work or just have someone in the background, follow me on Twitch so you don't miss my next stream. So these are the two stamp rallies that I'm participating in. This one is the Boba themed one with Sticker Zoo Designs, $10 minimum purchase and you get 2 stickers. And then this is the other one that I'm in with Drawn by Ivy. Very cute, matcha themed. And since we are sharing a booth space, you can easily complete it in less than 10 minutes. Probably 5 minutes if you want to challenge yourself.
Food.
Food.
So much. And we're gonna bring it in.
Starting this year, Anime Riverside is leaning towards wanting to become a ribbon convention. If you're not familiar with ribbons, they're also known as con badge ribbons. And as noted, you can put them on your con badge. If you want to know more about them, I talk about it all the time in my Anime Los Angeles vlog because it is a well-known ribbon convention. However, in the case of Riverside, this is the first time they've done it. And my recommendation for them, maybe the other recommendation is just to purchase more narrow ribbons. However, this is the standard sized con ribbon badge. So for the next NerdBot events, I would recommend that they have a horizontal type of badge so that people can display their ribbons here and then have it trail that way, rather than this if they have the regular vertical size. If you don't want the adhesive sticking out, you would have to put the ribbons in this way, and I know some people might not be interested in doing that and would rather have a whole trail of it, but just a suggestion if you do want to continue promoting ribbons at this convention. And since they just started introducing ribbons at this con, I was pretty casual with it in that I only brought my extras from Anime Los Angeles from January. I didn't want to order more because I did want to just go through the ribbons that I currently have, and I did have a good amount of extras. So overall, pretty good. I'm still in the middle of bothering Henry of Sticker Zoo, so I've been interning here for the hour or so, which is just me eating sandwiches and then observing how he conducts sales. I'm trying to remember how it is compared to last year. I feel like it's about the same in terms of busyness. I haven't seen how well we've done financially. However, there's still a good amount of people. I have noticed from last year that Typically, the con goers at Anime Riverside seem to be pretty loyal within Anime Riverside because I had not vended in 2023, but I did vend at Anime Riverside 2022, 2024, and then this year 2025. And last year, there were a few people who said that they had purchased from me back in 2022's Anime Riverside, which I thought was interesting because usually a lot of people would say like, oh, I've bought from you at so-and-so convention and not necessarily that particular event. So I thought, I feel like there's a good amount of loyalty within this convention community. And as I've said in previous NerdBot events, I would say that Anime Pasadena, Anime Riverside tends to be more anime normies in a way, in that usually the people who attend, again, not everyone, typically they're the ones who watch Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, mostly shonen, and maybe are not as into niche anime. For this type of convention, while there are a few people who drive from NorCal to come here to SoCal, I would not recommend this convention if you are flying. It is a 2-day con, and typically I wouldn't recommend flying for any convention that's just 2 days. What are your thoughts on this convention?
I feel like it's one of the busier cons in California compared to like just SoCal cons. If I were to think of the ones that are popular that I do, it's like Anime Expo, Anime Riverside, Anime Impulse LA.
For the LA area.
Yeah, and I feel like even though the attractions might not be as compelling as Anime Impulse LA, with like the Asian American Expo and all the other events there, I feel like Riverside does a great job here hosting with all the different things that they can do outside. And they get a good amount of like notable voice actors that people would come for. Inside this venue itself, for the exhibitors, they give ample room, but it still gets really crowded because there are a lot of attendees. So then walking down the aisles can be a little difficult sometimes. But overall, it's good. It's competitive. There's a lot of amazing artists and vendors here.
It is currently 5:38, so a little less than an hour and a half until this convention ends. It has slowed down considerably, and because of that, I thought I should do a quick summary of today. I will admit I was not at my booth most of the time because I was either running around or just getting lunch or vlogging. So I had my lovely helper do most of the work. Rest assured, I do pay her. However, walking around this convention, at least within the vendor hall, I have not stepped foot into Artist Alley today. It was relatively busy for a good amount of the time during the convention, and it was only the last few hours where it started to die down and there was a lot of space, because when I was walking around, it was very difficult to walk through the crowd because it was very dense. And if anything, it did force people to walk slowly and actually have the opportunity to look at every single table that they're walking past. As I've said in previous NerdBot event vlogs, NerdBot as in Anime Pasadena, Anime Riverside, Anime Las Vegas, I would say that these events are a happy medium of anime conventions as well as comic conventions. If anything, it's more of a anime-themed comic convention. Of the two conventions, although Anime Pasadena is the original one, before they branched to Anime Riverside and Anime Las Vegas, for myself, Anime Riverside does a little bit better. However, it's not a big difference. Both are local to me, so cost isn't really the issue here. It's more so which one happens to bring in a bit more revenue, and in this case, it has been Anime Riverside. I still would not recommend flying over here, especially if you are new to conventions. If you want to learn how to get into this convention and vend here yourself, I will talk about that later in the video. Let us ask our table neighbor what she thinks about this event. When was the last time you did this convention?
2023. I skipped 2024.
Compared to last year, were you in Artist Alley or in Vendor Hall?
In 2023, I was in Artist Alley.
What are your thoughts on it, at least for now, since you're in Vendor Hall now versus 2 years ago?
I like that it's brighter in here. The lighting was a bit dim in Artist Alley. And I think traffic flow is heavier here. I'm unsure if the traffic flow is translating to higher sales. I'm doing a bit better here than I was in Artist Alley, but I think it's also because I have much more merch than I did in 2023. There's a lot of people. Like when we are looking at the aisles and stuff, there's a lot of people walking. but we also got a good spot.
Yeah.
So.
Like we're pretty close to the entrance, like literally just a table down and it's the entrance. So we do have a really good spot. And also for myself, my first Anime Riverside was in Artist Alley, but that was the first one. So it's hard to compare to this one. Yeah.
Especially since our like inventory and catalog has
It's so different.
grown so much that
Drastically.
it's really hard to compare year to year unless you have like the same amount of things as you did before, which usually is not going to be the case.
Oh, no, she
I was like, I didn't know you were here, and then he was like, oh yeah, she's here. I'm like, ah, yes, the labs. I think it's good because since it's more dense, like people are kind of forced to walk and like slowly walk to see everything. Versus vendor hall, it's like pretty wide. Like this is nice and narrow. There, it's like, yeah, pretty wide.
I know it's like a little bit wider over there. Like right side of the
Oh. She's vlogging now too. Yay! Delicious. Dinner time. Reveal. Good morning. It is day 2 of Anime Riverside. We're here relatively early. It is 8:29 in the morning. Again, this con does not start till 10 and it does end at 6 today versus yesterday where it ended at 7. Some information about Anime Riverside. There are about 200 vendors. This is based off of what Anime Riverside has said. I'm assuming that includes Artist Alley and Vendor Hall. It is a 10 by 6 space, so 10 feet up front and then 6 feet behind, which is how me and Ivy were able to share a space and also have some space to go out at the end. Both Artist Alley and Vendor Hall do come with an 8-foot table, and both spaces are actually the exact same dimensions. The only difference is that Artist Alley is in the smaller hallway to our left. It comes with 2 chairs and 2 badges, and any additional Artist Alley badge is $25 for the weekend. In terms of applications, it is kind of a mixed bag. I would say that it's a little bit first come, first serve, but also a mix of jury. So it's really up to the organizers. You don't really know if you'll get in unless you get an email from them. It is the type where you would have to download the PDF from their website once it opens, fill it out, and then you email it to them. So yeah, I would say just good luck when you apply for any of the NerdBot events, but they're all like that. Looking at yesterday's numbers, I would say that it is a little bit lower than last year. And I'm assuming it's because of, the economy, per usual. A lot of people have been laid off. There's not as much discretionary spending now. And I wouldn't say it's because of location, because I'm basically in the same location as last year. The only difference is that last year I was a table that way, so I had an inline table, versus this year, while I do have a corner table, I am sharing it, so it's kind of inline-like. I would say comparing last year's Saturday numbers, 70 to 80% of last year's numbers. Again, not mad about it. At this point, like, we did profit. It's just not at the same amount. Personally, because I am local, my costs are low. Basically, my main expenses are the table fee as well as my helper. I would do this event again.
Valley. And then you just go back down.
Oh my. Okay, and then just pulse it. I think since we're in the back, it probably looks good if we have the hands up. Back on the topic of stamp rallies, where do you get things made? For stamps, I like to go on stamps.com for my custom stamps. Some people do have a silhouette mint where you can basically make the stamp yourself at home. Or if you are on a budget and have some time to DIY it, you can just carve an eraser to make a custom stamp. Honestly, you can just look up how to make a custom stamp using an eraser and you'll find a lot of results on there. As for stamp cards, I would say that the most common sizing is a 4x6. However, I have seen some use a 5x7. However, if you want to save on money, I suggest doing a 4x6, or you can use a 5x7 and then just cut it in half. Some common places for cards are Gotprint, Vistaprint, and then there's another one, maybe Jukebox. But if you're even more on a budget and you don't want to order stamp cards and outsource them, you can either print them out yourself at home using some type of cardstock or thick paper, or even print it out on thermal label printers, which I have seen a few people do, especially for duo stamp rallies. As for prizes, as I've mentioned before, some have sticker sheets, stickers, sticker packs, keychains, etc. I've also seen other people provide buttons as prizes, badge ribbons, and keychain bundles, but you can make it however you want. Now, I'd say that figuring out quantities for your stamp cards and prizes tends to be the most difficult thing. I know I'm also continually learning what might be best for every event, and there is no right answer for this type of question. However, something to think about, especially in the case of stamp cards. The bigger a convention is, the more stamp cards you would need, and vice versa. The smaller a con, the less stamp cards you would need. For Anime Expo, last year we ordered 1,000. It was way too much, so this year we're ordering 500. For Anime Impulse, we had about 250 cards. That was a good amount. So I would say moving forward, at least from someone who does order from Gotprint, 250 is a good number for most cons, so you don't necessarily run out, but it's also not going to be overly excessive. As for prizes, it would also depend on the prize and the number of artists. One thing to think about is that the higher the price point to complete the rally, you should have less prizes. And on the other case, if you have more artists, you should also have less prizes. Basically, if it's a rally that is easy to complete, you should have more prizes. For my typical quantities, sticker sheets, we would have 25 at most. Shaker keychains, 30 for Anime Expo this year. We did order about 50 or so last year. It was too much. We had a lot of extra shaker keychains. We basically ordered less this year. And I believe for SAC Anime with the individual keychains, we ordered 20 of each design. Another question that a lot of people tend to ask is, what do you do with the extra prizes? If there are extras, we typically divide it amongst all of the artists participating, and then we keep that much, and then we keep the extras. Some really quick tips regarding organizing or participating in a stamp rally. First, if you are hosting one, please keep the number of artists in the stamp rally reasonable. Attendees are less likely to participate if there is a rally with more than 6 artists. I would say for more than 6, I've seen rallies where they require at least 5 or so stamps for completion and you can get the prize. For that one, it's a bit tricky. I haven't been in a rally with that many artists. Maybe 7 artists for last year's Anime Expo. However, in the case of those rallies where there's a lot of artists, and as long as you finish and purchase from 5 artists and receive the prize, it might not be fair for some artists who are participating and have contributed their funding and art in the stamp rally. If people are not necessarily buying from them, maybe they're not as popular on social media, or they're with other artists who are much more known in the scene, they might not get as many sales as another person. So that is something to consider with that type of rally style. Another thing is that the more complicated a prize is, in the case of comparing a more simple prize like sticker sheets versus something more complicated like a shaker keychain, it will be more expensive. And in that case, I would recommend bumping up the minimum purchase price to a higher amount. For myself, I know it really just depends on the artist participating, what they want to agree on. I've seen ones where it's a bit more affordable and that artists often require either a tip or any purchase in order to receive a stamp, while other artists, like in my case, I require minimum $10 and onwards. If it's more complicated, maybe it'll go up to $15 per artist or $20 per artist. Another thing you need to look into is considering saving prizes for each day of the convention, especially if it is a con that is pretty busy and you can anticipate that a lot of people will complete it. For example, like Anime Expo, SAC Anime, and so on. I like to save some for people who participate on Sunday, especially if it is a 3 to 4 day event, because not everyone has a full weekend badge, and I would hate to not have enough prizes for people who do only attend Sunday and can't participate anymore because you ran out. I would also suggest adding a part to the card where the artist marks off when the attendee cashes in their card for the prize, so they can't redeem it more than once. I like to have a little checkbox where you can mark it off, but in the times where we've forgotten to add that, we just put a star or something on the corner so we know that they've already received the prize. They don't need to get another one. Continuing on with the stamp rally tips. If you're going to host one, you need to be very communicative. Some of the things you need to consider are, when are the deadlines for the designs? When are the deadlines for when people need to pay by? And there's just a lot of things that kind of emulate being a project manager. I like to say like, oh, I'm cosplaying project manager, because you essentially become one when you are hosting and organizing a stamp rally, because you want to make sure that everyone is on track with submitting their designs on time, so there are no delays with the prizes and the stamp cards. I would also recommend allotting tasks. I used to do all the work myself, which is self-inflicted and is not anything against the artist participating, because I did want to do all the work all the time. But I did get burnout really easily. So after another friend hosted a rally for SAC Anime Summer, and she basically had everyone choose what they wanted to be responsible for, I thought I would apply the same for my own rallies from then on. You can have people volunteer to design the stamp card, order the prize, put prize bundles together, order the stamp cards, and so on. And I will say, if someone is not doing their part in the stamp rally, do not be afraid to cut them off and kick them out of the rally. Fortunately, this has not happened to me yet. However, there are cases of some participants that I have heard from mutual friends where other people have not sent their money in time, did not submit their art within a certain amount of time, and there is just no proper excuse. For myself, as a recovering people pleaser, I often am a little hesitant to be that confrontational. However, when your money is involved in something that is business related, you should not be afraid to cut someone off if they're being unreasonable. It's like, I'm curious on your opinion on this. If someone is delaying on your stamp rally or anything involved in Artist Alley that you're collaborating on, what reasons would you consider cutting them off, or why would you keep them on? Obviously, it's not black and white. There's a lot of things that you would have to consider, whether something happened, maybe there's a family emergency. But in my opinion, even if there's an issue with funds, you should not participate in a stamp rally if you can't afford it. But maybe that is an unpopular opinion. What do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts. If you've been in a stamp rally before, do you have any advice that I have not mentioned yet? Any tips, some hacks? Would love to hear them. Please comment them down below. I might learn from them as well. We got food for everybody, and we got some sandwiches for lunch. And one of the great things about Anime Riverside is that you are able to bring outdoor food inside. So make sure to stay hydrated, stay fed. Highly recommend. There's a sandwich place, basically the same sandwich place as yesterday.
Same one.
Yeah, and then we got boba loose leaf tea, which is very close. So now that I thought about it and had the entire weekend to try out a duo stamp rally, I think they're a great idea, especially if you just wanted to do something for fun, wanted an excuse to design a new product, whether that's a sticker, keychain, and whatnot. I would say that this was a good event to try it out because I don't typically participate in stamp rallies for Anime Riverside. I would want to do it for another event, but maybe not for a big type of convention, maybe more so for an event that I don't typically host rallies in. I would say the next one is possibly another NerdBotCon like Anime Pasadena. But in this case, I'm still interested in participating in slightly larger stamp rallies, but maybe not as big as 7+. Maybe I'll try to keep it within 3 to 5 artist participants, just to keep it manageable and not too overwhelming for anyone who wants to participate in them. But I do think it's a good idea if you are interested in participating in a stamp rally, maybe don't know as many artists as you would like participating in it, or if it's last minute and you just wanted to put something together, you know, another artist who might want to participate in that theme, then I say go for it. It is 3:57, so before I forget to say this, because it is very important, mostly for myself, for next year's Anime Riverside, if I do vend, it is cold in this convention. I don't know about Artist Alley, but in the vendor hall, it is very chilly, even though it is 85+ degrees outside. The air conditioner is blasting. You could also say that it's because there's less people inside today versus yesterday, because yesterday I did feel a little bit warmer. However, today, I'm assuming because there's less people inside the vendor hall, there's more airflow, and so it is a bit more chilly. And I regret not bringing my cardigan today. I'm also not sure if I did bring this up as to why I think I may not have done as well financially for this convention this year versus last year. Last year, I debuted my one-piece egghead pins. So it was the entire Straw Hat crew in the egghead arc outfit. So naturally, because pins are a smaller product item, they are more likely to move, as in more product will be purchased, versus this year, the only new thing that I debuted were my headbands and my clear Ita bags, which are at a higher price point. The headbands are $35 and the clear Ita bags are $55. If anything, this convention was more so to make some profit, help pay my bills, but also my opportunity for people who are most likely going to Anime Expo, for them to see the products that I currently have. They can think about it, and next month when they do go to Anime Expo, maybe they've thought that they want to buy that clear Ita bag, or they do want to buy that pin set or whatnot. If anything, this is mostly my opportunity to debut my products, have people think about it, and then next month, maybe they will buy it in person, or they could buy it online the next day. Yeah. Woo. If you're curious to see how last year's con compared to this year, watch this video to see my vlog from Anime Riverside last year, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. J2 pose. J2 pose. In honor of Kelsey, jump. That sounds... Well, she's alive. She's alive.